Oh, just one more person. No, and Mary.
Mary. I'm missing two people.
Chris.
Okay.
Chris and Mary.
Yeah, Chris and Mary.
I can't hear.
I can't hear either.
Dropbox.
Yeah, something.
Here we go.
All right, now can anybody hear me? Georgette, you hear me?
Yes.
You have to unmute and speak. We'll make sure we can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you, John.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Okay, well, we'll give another minute or two. How many we got here? 9. That's 9 too. Too many. 7:35. Everybody can see everybody, I hope. The remote doesn't work, so I can't do the zooming, so you'll just have to figure out who's speaking. We'll try and remember to identify ourselves. It might be more a little more accurate to do that.
You always do that.
I'm used to
That's
doing
it.
that.
That's
Yeah.
what you do. That's being recorded. You're the pro at it.
I've spent a lot of time in meetings.
Yeah.
You can tell.
We all know who you
Yeah.
are.
So how does- Yeah. Yourself to alter.
How rude. If we get, I'd have dinner, so that could be
There you go.
other calories.
Yeah, nice dinner.
I don't, I eat after this.
All right, I do think maybe we'll start the public hearing
Mhm.
tonight. We have a public hearing, on ordinance 2025-03. I'll read the title, ordinance to exempt fences from the requirement to apply for a Montgomery County permit, amending Article 4, building permit regulations, and Article 13, application of legislation. So the public hearing is called to order, and anyone who cares to speak to this ordinance at this time may do so by raising your hand. Okay. Seeing none, then we'll call the public hearing to a close and move on to the town council meeting.
All right.
Call the council meeting to order. First item of business is to approve the agenda. The proposed agenda will be signed, I trust shortly. There. Okay, so the agenda I'm showing here has a few alterations from the one that was sent out at the time I sent to the council and put it into the materials. Most of this is now in the one that in the documents folder. There are no minutes, so I've removed the minutes from approval. Available under my report. I've added the music weekend, and most importantly, under administrative matters, I've added an item on the revision of the Washington Grove Employee Handbook. Something that Jean Moyer has been working on, and she will explain exactly why. Not that it didn't need revision, it did. But she and I would like to bring it to the council's attention. The document is in the draft. Is in the materials. Okay, there was one minor change down here in my council reports of note. So, do we have any comments or alterations suggested for the agenda?
Did we make, I don't think, we didn't make a motion to approve. the-
You don't have to, it turns.
Oh, you don't have to? Oh.
No, you ask for
As long as-
objections to the
Okay.
agenda. If no one objects, the agenda
Oh, I didn't know.
is approved, so that makes sense.
No objection for me.
Good.
Nope.
No.
Okay, so the agenda is adopted, and I'll stop. The share that will bring us to public appearances, regular business. So we have a few people here. this is your opportunity to speak to any matter at all, whether it's on the agenda, and especially if it is on the agenda. So if you would wish to speak, please raise your figurative hand, would be the best, but, I'll, yeah. I can't see everybody yet, but now I can. Oh, we have one here in the room. Kathy Lehman has a public event.
That was nice to meet you. Okay.
Yes.
Just a little thing.
Closer.
You maybe know by now that the little red house on Locust Lane is gonna go on the market. And it's a mess. It'll be really hard for anybody to do anything with it, but I think the town should buy it and make it another municipal building for storage, and you should see the storage in the back here is just a mess, and it's because there's no place for anything to go. And the next time we get someone like Pat, she'd have a better place to work. And I would just like the council to consider it. I took it to the planning commission and they said to bring it to you, so. That's what I'm doing.
Interesting.
Just, yeah, I mean, it's.
I will
gonna go
make
on
a
the
comment
market
right
for
off.
225, but no, not yet.
What? What does it look like?
The little red house on Lucas Lane, near Peter.
Oh,
If you just go down Grove, where Locust Lane.
Yeah.
Right there.
Right there. Well, and in all fairness, that's, my mother lives over there too, but I'm looking out for this for the future, and I just think it would be kind
yeah,
of neat
it's an interesting
to
idea.
even move it.
It's probably halfway town land anyway.
Well, see, that's the thing, if you want it, you can't do it.
No, you can't.
There's no,
I just will comment. Can I comment on this?
Do we have a choice?
Yes, I need to comment. The HPC has raised the idea of the town buying. And it's not quite, I don't think this building may qualify, but a historic property, which could then be turned into another town facility with, historic displays, other displays, storage, whatever other purposes.
A museum.
So.
Yeah.
Museum.
Archive, museum, all kinds of stuff, yeah.
I don't know if that qualifies as one that would meet that need. But,
It has needs,
so it's the HPC that would,
so that's what I
Questions?
should go next.
yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah,
All right, that doesn't mean you can't think about it,
that's true.
thank you.
All right. Okay, I think Kathy was the only one, so we will close out public appearances. And we will go on to the treasurer's report. Jean is here and. I will set up the treasurer's report. Momentarily. Okay. Jane?
Yep, I'm here. I don't have much more than what is already commented in the report. It appears as if we are only at 64% of our income, but that is a direct result of not having spent any of the ARPA money. So that's not to be an alarming thing. There's a bit, we have started the migration for the town website to a .gov. So that cost is a bit over budget for the town website modernization, but for good reasons. We did not also address it in this fiscal year, the ADA aids and services. So there's that money is available to a degree. And that is also in next year fiscal year's budget. Other than that, I don't have any big changes to make note of in the expense areas. It was, May was a very quiet month in terms of spending. Hiring is a whole nother, another topic for May. We have 19 positions to hire for the summer. So I've been quite busy training new people in the payroll and timekeeping system, and tracking down that we have all the right paperwork and minors' work permits in May. So that is all I really have to say on this.
Oh, I have a question, Gene. So I was told that you can now pay us through Zelle, is that correct?
I cannot pay people through Zelle. That is, people can pay us through Zelle. John and I have not come to even discuss the possibility. Right now, checks require countersigning between John and I. So we kind of have to figure out how we would make that work with Zelle. It's totally possible, but our policies and procedures right now wouldn't allow it. But people can send payments through Zelle.
Right, okay, makes sense.
Anybody else have any questions for Gene? I will point out that our contract tree removal
Well,
is going to be, so even significantly higher than what it is showing here for the end of May. The last month is gonna see, unfortunately, a bunch more. I wouldn't, somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000. But it just puts an exclamation point on the fact that, many of our older trees are in tough shape, but dying, and begin to pose a danger, and we
Right.
remove them if they're a danger. We prune branches, and we remove them if they are clearly dying, and we want to get a head start on replanting in that location. So we have to think it out.
Yeah, there were 3 requests over the last week from residents, with town trees, so.
Concern.
And I applaud the fact that in front of Renee's house over here, a branch fell onto the walkway that was probably this thick. And that, that would have really killed. So I think it's great they were being a little proactive as far as doing this.
and next year's budget, the removal is 40,000,
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
but even that probably won't be enough for next year at the rate we're going.
Okay.
That-
Thank you, Gene. We need a motion to accept the treasurer's report now.
I'll move.
I'll second. Yeah.
Bob Gilmore moved and Mary Warfield has seconded. No further discussion. All in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. The treasurer's report is approved. Okay, that brings us to my report. Which goes on for a while. Hopefully it won't take a while though. First of all, the kudos. It was a big month. The Circle Fest organizers and volunteers, obviously, the Circle Fest was a big success. I've written that the people of the Circle and resident sympathizers put on a musical and recreational potluck gathering enjoyed by dozens of Grove, out of town guests. The people of the Circle expression came from Peter. So don't blame me.
They like it.
I had a different expression, which I won't tell you what it was.
Thank you.
So they did a great job, and
By the way, it wasn't dozens, it was hordes of people.
hordes.
There were hordes.
Okay,
yeah.
hordes. And kudos also to the Meadows Committee volunteers who participated with the Parks Department's supervision in planting over 300 wildflower plugs and grass plugs on So that was part of the restoration plan for the meadow, and the town residents came through with their labor on that. It's fantastic. Okay, next item. I would like to propose that we have here in town, probably prior to a council meeting, although it could be a separate meeting, a review of the 2025 Maryland legislative session. I was speaking to Nancy King, our state senator for District 39. And we realized they have District 39 representatives have not been here at the town with a legislative wrap up. It is an opportunity to ask questions, to understand, what legislators faced, and so I'm planning to invite them to a future meeting. Could be as soon as July, but it'll have to be it works for them. Of course. As far as the Washington Grove share connector pathway report, it's still not. We still don't have the mandatory referral review by the planning board scheduled. Although apparently it's been requested. The holdup was a forest conservation plan, which has now been signed off on within the Parks Department. So that should be coming along shortly. The project leader has also requested that we start looking at any approvals the town has to give for the bit at the end of Brown, as well as the easement to allow them to use town property for this purpose. The stormwater infrastructure maintenance project. While I had hoped to get the design proposals to the council today, that didn't happen, so we're going to go for July. And hopefully I'll be bringing that. That will be a major presentation and consideration. The council will be asked to approve the specific work. We'll have some cost numbers, and all of that is basically the go-ahead to complete the design build amendment, which specifies how the contract funds, which are $577,000, how those will be spent specifically on this project. So that's the decision that needs to be made as to and we will bring forth, the group's going to bring forth hopefully some visualizations where appropriate, so that the council and the town can see what it will, have some idea of what it might look like. It will look like after the work is done in the various locations. Okay.
So I've heard some rumors that SMI's project manager is not being very responsive. Do you know anything?
No, we're having the design. We're in the design phase.
Yes,
This is the designer, the design contractor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had a bit of a delay. We probably could have moved a little faster. But it is what it is.
Yeah,
and
okay. Yeah.
we expect to get here in July and move ahead. Yeah.
So we'll be kind of on schedule.
Well, we still have time, but
It's always
yeah.
I know.
I want to keep saying that, but
Yeah.
we're going to get on to construction because there may be holdups there too as well. So Peter's pointing out, just reminding everyone, we have a drop dead date to spend the ARPA money of December 31st of next year, not this year, next year. That is only about 450,000 of the 577. So you know, it seems unlikely we won't have spent that money.
Mhm.
We may not have finished the project, but the rest of the money is coming from the state
Right.
bond. And that doesn't have that done.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, all right, I'm just putting a call out here to the council and in general to the town that we are in search of a new planning commission alternate.
Mm.
Because a little further in the agenda, I'm gonna propose to appoint the alternate as a full member. And we still need a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals to flesh it out as the 3 members. We have 2. All right, a status report on the tennis court locks and signage. Aha, I knew there was a reason I had to bring some more stuff up here. Yes, so the tennis court locks have started to be used. The combination is not really a mystery. However, anyone wanting to use the tennis court needs the combination. And I actually haven't yet seen a written, how the heck do you get the combination? If you need it, document.
You have to play pickleball.
Yeah.
Talk to her.
You have to know the pickleball players. So, oops, and along with the locks, we wanted to put in some improved signage on the courts, and I'm gonna show the new signs which are here but not installed. This is the one in English. And we're going to do same information on the same shape sign, same size sign in Spanish. We've just about finished that translation and adjustment to get it onto this size sign. This is 18 inches by 24 inches in size. So it'll look pretty good, I think.
They look great.
I didn't have your
They're really
picture.
good looking.
I didn't have your picture. I should have had it showing what it'll look like, but everybody will see it when it's. Okay. As far as in addition. Where am I on this thing? All right, next is the maintenance shed. So the maintenance shed. Human entry door, somebody was calling it the warehouse entry door, has had a combination lock installed on it so that we don't have to pass keys around. And the reason for that is, yeah, here it is. The reason for that is because the Woods Committee is hiring some high school volunteers and a few paid, I guess. Mix of paid and volunteers. They'll get whatever the volunteer credit for it to water trees that they have planted. So here's what the door looks like now. And that combination, the door didn't get any nicer, but the lock sure did.
You got a new door for that lock.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask a question though?
Of course.
Would it be possible to use locks like that on the town hall doors, cipher locks instead of keys?
Possible, anything is possible.
Okay.
I hadn't thought about that, but I know what Chris is thinking. We've had the locks, we've been considering doing at least a number of the doors need replacement. Locks.
And we have no idea who has keys.
There's some safety
Yeah.
involved in it though, with the bar, you know, if you're, whatever you're doing in the building, like open to the public and concerts and stuff like that. These safety bars have to be there.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's okay. That's not, has nothing to do with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, that's part of the mechanism. You have to be able to. Lock it so people can't get out, but.
Yeah, but it's taken me 3 years to learn how to open it.
How to use the key.
Yeah, all that skill is gonna be wasted now. But that is something I think it would be great to consider that. It would make sense.
Okay, we can certainly think
Yeah.
about it. All right, the dog waste stations, which, the council, approved installing
Mhm.
at the last meeting. The locations have been decided on. They're marked by little white flags with white circles around them, the 4 locations. People may have seen them, the 4 locations, now are, 3 of them are roughly where they were proposed to be. One is near the intersection of Acorn and Chestnut Road. Although it's been moved a little bit toward the, down to the Women's Club, because we're gonna do some stormwater work there, and we wanna have it in the way for that. The other one is near the maintenance shed, across from the maintenance shed. And there's one at Grove Avenue where it intersects Brown. It's actually across Brown in that little bit of the path that goes to Railroad Street. And the 4th one, which was moved, instead of being at Dorsey near the woods, has been moved to just onto the meadow path on Ridge Road across from Oak Street. So those will either be installed shortly this month or next month. And we're going to see how they work. Okay, update on the vacant properties registry. The vacant properties registry was approved by the council. It's an ordinance. It is to begin with the FY 26, July 1st, and for that, we need to let everybody know they need to have their property registered if it's vacant. So Mary has spent some time with my
Edits.
comments and created some great forms, one which notifies those people we suspect. With the reason why we believe it is, I can show you, those are actually going to be on the website. The ones on the website aren't actually the ones we finalized, but we'll fix that. They are, however, in the document material here. I'm not gonna bring them up.
I have one edit for that.
Whatever, yes,
You say
they're
reverse.
draft still, yeah,
Yeah, oh, it says they reverse, it should be like, it said reverse side.
okay,
Yeah,
but can we have Peter?
Well,
Edit, everybody's gotta look at it. We don't need to wordsmith it here.
all right,
We're certainly could be, there will be room for changes. In any event, we want to get those out in
Mhm.
advance of July 1st. So with Kathy's and Mary's help, and Mary has a list of properties that are maybe considered vacant and reasons. I probably should just show the one the notification document simply because it so here you can see it here. So the top part of it allows us, the town, to indicate what reason the property is being considered vacant. So, and there could be multiple reasons. Obviously, it might not be vacant if it has overgrown or dead vegetation, but in combination with something else, that would be sufficient suggestion. And you'll all recall that not registering has penalties. And so we want everybody to have a chance to avoid their penalties. So you can see there's the documents in the document folder. Take it off. Okay, last item is just the reminder to everybody that the rec committee is having music weekend on the usual weekend. No, it's not the usual, it's not Father's Day,
Not
it's the
Father's
one afterwards, amazingly enough.
It's the weekend of the 21st.
21st to the 22nd, it's on the agenda now. The agenda also has, but it's in a listserv distributed email. They're having a jazz brunch potluck sign up.
Mhm.
They did that last year, they did for something. So, yeah, they're asking people to sign up, so they get, it's not as if isn't always enough food, but, okay. And that's the end of my report. No questions there. We can move on to what I call administrative matters. The first item is official town email addresses. We now have the domain WashingtonGroveMaryland.gov. We have the website now shows that it is WashingtonGroveMaryland.gov. And we now have an email account that will allow us to have unlimited John Compton at WashingtonGrove.com, fill in your whatever. Kathy already has Clark at WashingtonGroveMaryland.com. But now everybody else can have that.
.com or .gov?
.gov. If I say .com, just
Yeah, no.
look it over. You're absolutely right. .gov. The difference between this and your council email addresses that you might have already, the council address, first of all, is a one-way. It's only you can only receive mail. You can't send mail with your council with a .gov. So I mean, you could continue to do what you're doing now. In other words, you could use your Gmail or wherever you've created a Washington or the WashingtonGrove.org that emails that we're using. But if you use a WashingtonGrove.gov, you can both send and receive emails with that email address. Okay, and more important, of course, the clerk can send email addresses. So she has one, but we can set up a whole bunch of others. And for anyone, the planning commissioners, HPC, you name it. All right,
So, oh, Mary,
Maybe a private discussion, but I still am not getting any of those from the mayor and council, because for some
that's
reason.
because I've got that stupid counselor, Mary.
Yes, and some council Mary
I
is
gotta get that
getting
out.
all my mail.
I know, and I haven't heard a word. I'm sure it's a dead
Well,
email.
didn't you were getting suffer for a while, and she must have just given up because she.
Okay, sorry, Mary, if you remind me again, I'll make concerted effort to
Okay,
get rid of
I
it
appreciate
from all my repetitive emails.
Okay.
Other than-
I'll remind you.
so I just have a question. If we have a .gov email, can you guarantee that we won't get fired?
It's certainly a pleasure to people, David.
We'll have to get rid of DI.
I did, yeah, right.
I'm trying to think of a reasonable candidate to lead Washington Grove. It's not called fired anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
You
like.
don't get doged.
No, I know.
It's now a verb.
It's, okay, yeah.
You're gonna get doged. Right, okay. So the reason it's an administrative matter is please think about whether you want an email address. Right now, I think Marilyn, but I'll make sure she can set them up too, so I don't have to do all of them. Not that it's that hard, but to set them up. They will require you, if you're going to send email with that email address, you have to use the .gov server. So just you send Gmail, you use the Google's Gmail
Hmm.
server.
Mhm.
In my case, I use Apple server to use my me.com. But you'll have to be able to go in, and most everybody's email client, Outlook, you name it, is quite capable of, sending through multiple servers. You just choose your email address that you're using on your email and it does the right thing. But it does take, you have to have outgoing servers and incoming servers as an identification information. Okay, next item on the agenda is the one we inserted about the Washington Grove Employee Handbook. I'm gonna let Jean give you an intro as to what this is all about. But before she does, in the document folder, I included what we have currently as a personnel policies document. And it has about 3 or 4 pages of stuff, and the kind of stuff, look what it is. However, the employee handbook goes considerably further and is considerably more comprehensive. We also have a separate harassment policy and a personnel, what's it called, Jean? A personnel disciplinary policy. Okay, so those are what we currently have, and I'll let Jean
1.5.
go ahead.
All right, in my defense, I will say, I started with I was able to get my hands on a recently updated personnel handbook of another nonprofit that was very small, seemed very kind of representative of the smallness that we are. It was 44 pages. So I pat myself on the back that I did cull this down to 11 pages. And if you discount the front page, I think it's 9 or 10 pages. So the fact that it's bigger, there are reasons. There were certain federal Maryland employee laws, regulations that were not addressed in the one that is currently in play. And so I know that the draft that I began with had been recently updated and was fully compliant every which way in Maryland, federal, and county. So I felt pretty comfortable using that as a starting point. Also, with our insurance, our property insurance, every year I have to fill out what's called a loss control risk questionnaire. And if you score 90% on it, you get a credit. We lost our credit last year because I was very honest in my answers. And I would like to stay honest going forward. There were 2 items I added to this handbook in order to say honestly that we are compliant with that questionnaire. Any of the IT related sections are part of that. And there's a small section on vehicle use. We don't have a vehicle, but we might in the future. And in order to say we did all these good things with vehicle use, I had to write this as, saying, should we have one in the future, we will do all these things. So we really can't remove them, and we can't change them that much. There are a couple items, about 6 of them, that are in there specifically to meet the Maryland and federal Department of Labor regulations. And again, I pared them down as much as I could. So that is adoption leave. That's a Maryland one, I believe. flexible leave related to caring for a sick relative, FMLA, deployment leave is required, parental leave is required, pregnant and or nursing employees, Maryland is supportive of that. And accrued unpaid sick leave based on FMLA. And that in part relates to us because we are a local government. So this is a draft. And, you know, I don't think that we will solve any of it tonight, but this is an introduction to it. I would like to get it finalized not too into the future. Ultimately, all employees, even our seasonals, should at least get this because we have to prove, should there be an audit, that we provide this to our employees, including temporary employees. And the system that we use allows when you're hiring people to have a document just attached, and they automatically get it and can electronically attest that they got it and read it. Whether they read it or not, they can attest to that through the system, and that captures for us that we provided it. So, but I have not used the system because this is a draft. So I guess we should schedule, you know, maybe a bit of time, John, in a next council meeting to go through it. I would ask any of the council people to send me any comments in the next month. That would be helpful. But if we want to just spend a few minutes, John, going through page by page, I'm not so much the words, but the sections. And then I can answer any questions folks might have.
You're proposing that tonight or at the next meeting?
Either. I think the agenda called for 10 minutes, so we don't have a lot of time. But if something jumps out at you and you're like, why is that there?
Point of information.
Yeah.
Has Sue Ellen
Not-
reviewed?
Not at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I would propose that she review it. And Jean, you had said that it's fully compliant with all the federal, state, and county
yeah,
applicable laws.
Yeah.
How do you, what's the basis for that statement?
oh, so the draft that I started with had been professionally written at the request of this nonprofit. And the outside consultants that wrote it, specifically, that is their point, is to make sure everything is compliant. I also spent time doing my own research, so that in my attempts to pare it down, I didn't get rid of something that I shouldn't. But yes, I think Sue Ellen, or if she has somebody she can name who is, you know, an employment attorney, I think it's a good idea to have them look at it. The timing of whether they look at this draft or a later draft is, can be debated, so.
And I think that would be a good idea because something that is legally compliant for a private nonprofit may not comply with the potential additional legal requirements that we as a municipality have.
True. That's why I did actually go to the federal regulations and the state regulations myself. And I've got notes as to what applies to us no matter what, because we are a municipality. But I would certainly welcome having someone else look at this. I
And then
don't,
one,
I think we can pare it down a tiny bit more, but we can't take out the things that should be there.
the second question, so included in the folder was a separate document, the 2022 personnel policy. Is the thinking that we would have both? Because I'm
No,
a little
no.
concerned, they seem to cover a lot of the same.
no, that is the current policy.
I see.
That was
And so what-
basically written in 2009 and tweaked here and there.
Yeah,
So this would replace that.
okay, that's good, because I wouldn't want two documents that cover the same subjects, because they
Yes.
could conflict, be-
And
interfere with each other and whatnot.
I changed the name to employee handbook just because it is the more current term, and employees are required to get a copy of it. So it goes beyond personnel issues. So I called it an employee handbook.
Well, I think it's great. Thank you so much, Jean, for all the work that you did in putting this draft of this employee handbook. One last comment, because I deal with this a fair amount in my private litigation practice, is having a system of ensuring that people acknowledge receipts, and you reference that you want that to be something. I mean, I think it's something that should be like a prerequisite before beginning your job, that you have
Yes.
been
And I
given this,
can,
and you acknowledge, yes, I understand, I've
Yes.
given it, and I understand I'm supposed to follow it.
and our system called Rippling allows for that. And even
Perfect.
existing employees, if I upload a new document, I'm given the option to send it to them, and we can set it up that they have to acknowledge it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because, in court,
Yep.
just having
Yep.
having the policy does not protect you. You do have to prove that the employee got it. And they acknowledge they looked at it, whether they did or not.
Excellent. Thanks again, Jean.
Mhm.
Great work.
I just have a comment on the point at which the town attorney should review this. I think the council ought to take a look at it and offer up any comments before that happens. Because otherwise it will have to go back and forth a few times. I'm not sure you'll all have comments. I have some already. I'm not gonna bring them up tonight, but and they are questions that I think will require deciding. And I think you'll find some too. It's kind of a slog to go through this, and none of you, including me, maybe are personnel experts at all. But I think we can recognize things which are both important to employees and important to the town. You'll probably find them. So I guess my charge would be, let's plan on bringing the matter up again in July. Hopefully, and why don't you all go through it, ask any questions you want. Jean's gonna be available. Obviously by email, I'll be available, and then we can come and have maybe a revised version to really work with.
But I'm hearing you say, that's great. I'm hearing you say we should, after we do our homework, get that information to Jean or somebody prior, like not bring it up during the meeting, because that'll take forever.
Right, we don't wanna, we don't, what we wanna do in the meeting is debate
Right,
the substantive parts.
right.
this may raise.
So all our questions will come in the night before the meeting.
Well, I think it's worthwhile, like we often do, circulating amongst ourselves
Yes.
comments in advance, as long as we're not deliberating about those
No,
comments
yes, I
by
sent it,
email.
yeah, send it to Gene, yeah, so it's not an open meeting type thing, yeah.
Yeah, or even sharing them with each other, like just BCCing.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I appreciate that when people send that in advance.
in advance.
Yeah, so I can consider other people's comments
Yeah.
going into me. Barbara's very good at doing that. I'm less good at that.
Okay, and I will apologize. It appears that the version I put in and the version I just showed was not the most recent version that I at least did a little bit of work with. So I'll be sure and send those out. And I'm done and replace the ones in the meeting documents to make sure it's.
The draft
Handbook,
handbook.
yeah, the one you were
Are you
looking at.
talking about?
I noticed the ones that you were looking at did not have
Oh.
my comments,
Yeah.
of which there's about 4 or 5.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And they're already fewer substantive.
So you've already done your homework.
Now, I just, I'll tell you what I did is I looked at the existing policy, which is much shorter,
Mhm.
to make sure that they were all in the new
Oh.
version.
Uh-huh.
In the process of doing that, I actually read them and then I, had some, comments on what was. Okay, great. Thanks. Let's move on to the next administrative matter. That's appointment to the planning commission, as I mentioned in my report. We're looking for an alternate. That's because Jeff McCrean submitted his resignation this month, citing personal commitments. And the current alternate, Bob Kristen, was recommended by several planning commission members, and Bob is willing to move to a full commission position. So I'm proposing that he be appointed for the balance of the 5-year term that started June 2024 and runs through May of 2029. Any comments on this appointment?
Great choice.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, then let's move to a vote. All in favor of this appointment? All right, that's unanimous. Thank you. All right, now we're moving on to the unfinished business. We had the public hearing on ordinance 2025-03. And we are now as part of the agenda, going to do any further discussion. If there isn't any, we can bring it to a vote. So just to review, we approved the amended version, which now modifies 2 places to make clear that the Montgomery County sections of the code that we subscribe to, that the fence requirements are excluded. And to do that, we modified 2 areas. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll bring it to a vote. All in favor of ordinance? All right, that's 6-0. Ordinance is adopted. All right, next item on the business is on the agenda is some new business. And I think I'll read the title on the agenda item. It's Resolution 2025-07. The short name is Rules for Events and Recreational Activities that Use Public Facilities. And I'm going to let Peter introduce this while I put it up for sharing.
So I'm going to make the motion to accept resolution 2025-07. And Chuck, can I ask a procedural question?
Sure.
I'm learning. So there's 2015-02. Would you, if we agree on this, does this supersede that, or do we have to rescind that? How's that work?
Actually, in the ordinance, which
It's-
I'm
it's-
about ready
In
to
there, yeah.
bring up and show you.
That's right.
That's not it. it's
Yeah.
the right year, it actually, that's the first thing it does is
Super, yeah,
one of the things.
So pretend I didn't ask that question. Okay.
I'll pretend.
Is,
Uh,
is.
I only read it like 5,000 times. Yeah,
Okay,
okay. So that's my motion.
okay,
So
so
what's your motion?
It's to approve,
introduce.
introduce, 2025-07 resolution.
Second. Barbara.
Okay. So a motion is on the floor, to consider resolution 2025-07. The actual title is establishing rules for events and recreational activities that use public facilities. So what's this all about?
Can I, you want me to say? Okay, so.
Well, I mean, I can continue talking, you know.
Well, I would just,
I'm giving someone else.
I would just say that I think most of you are familiar with the fact that at the Methodist Church, there's been a full there where artisans, about 20 tables or so, have congregated. Craig English was sponsoring that. And that's probably Patty giving me advice. So Craig English sponsored that every year. And since he's retired and moved away, he didn't want to do it this year. And one of our members of the rec committee said that she would volunteer. She's also an artisan, that she would volunteer to undertake contacting all of these vendors and establishing this again. And she asked if it was possible for us to do this right outside here on town property. And at the, so there's two things. One is permission to use town property to have the fair. The other one was that they had a food truck there, which was very successful. And so there was that question, and this has come up actually in a lot of events about having food trucks, and it's always been confusing. And I'm really glad that it's being discussed now so that we can do things without feeling guilty about it. So the two things they're looking for this event is to be able to have the town host it versus the Methodist Church, and also to have a food truck there. And looking at the, the old ordinance, 2015, I'm impressed that I can say 2015-02. It wasn't very clear as to whether we could have that. I guess the real question comes down to who's making money. We can't have then people coming in and using town land and facilities for a profit for themselves. And so the distinction, I believe, was made that if it's an event for the town people, you can have vendors come in to support that event. And there might be ancillary, if that's the right word, profits that they might make. But this is really for the people of the town. And just like an impassioned plea to the council that there's a tremendous amount of work that is going to go into doing this. I just thought it's no problem. Getting the vendors is really difficult to get them scheduled. They've got to be scheduled basically now, because every weekend is from now on is all booked. And so there's kind of like, we don't have the timeline of waiting a month or 2 months to do this. I would also say that I won't say anything else. I'll just say that it would be good if we could act upon this. And I think it's in the best interest of the town. And I also think that the rec committee, does a lot of work. And this has been a very excellent experience for the rec committee, because I and most of the people on the committee, everybody comes and goes. We didn't know that new events have to be blessed by the council, which is a great idea. But like even the karaoke that's happening is kind of like a new event. And so we really, it's great to know that, and it's no problem doing it. But this has been it's just been a very good educational experience for us. So. Questions?
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe I should make a further comment before you
Yeah.
ask questions. So the rec committee, having praised that there was a policy that that stood basically in the way of things that seemed like the town would like to have happen, that were to the benefit of the town. They went to the effort to propose new a new term, new conditions. To revise that policy, that's what this is. And when they sent it to me, you know, we have had various difficult decisions to make. Concerning not just rec committee events, but events put on by the sustainability committee, by residents who, I can relate to you when Kathy Fletcher wanted to make Jim Fletcher's artwork available for sale, of course. She wanted to use the hall. And unfortunately, it says right there, clearly cannot be used for a for-profit making activity. So I created a workaround where she got to display his artwork. And anybody who wanted to buy it had to go over to the women's club and buy it.
Yeah.
Which is not part of the town.
Right.
Which is not the town thing. So there was no actual sales here on town property. It was obviously something that we might have wanted to support, but it just didn't seem like, I didn't want to set a precedent that anybody could come in here and just sell whatever they felt they needed to sell. And there've been others. So I wanted to be sure that this revision didn't just apply to recreation committee events and other things. So, which is why the title here, and now I'm suggesting in what's been introduced, it's for events and recreational activities that use public facilities. It's going to apply to all public facilities, basically anything that uses it. So that's the idea. So this should be read with that in mind. It retains things specific to the Recreation Committee because of course they put on the vast majority of events. So the old ordinance, what's shown here are where the new language is, and what's not highlighted is the existing language. And the Rec Committee did a really good job here in this particular paragraph here. And I'm again putting too many colors. Take it off and just leave my arrow pointing to it. That the town's recreation centers are dedicated to uses whose primary purpose is to benefit the town of Washington Grove, shall not be used for private profit-making activity unless the primary purpose of the use is to benefit the town of Washington Grove. So that provides a way of allowing profit-making activity if it seems to be to the benefit of the town. The primary purpose of the use of the facility is a benefit to the town, so I go on to define that, if the use provides town residents with social or cultural benefits that foster a sense of community, and then nothing in this paragraph limits the requirements of the town for the town council approval. That is mentioned further down in the document. So that basically defines the circumstances where some sort of profit making might be allowed. And when you think of an art fair, this would qualify immediately. And then you can go on further to the next paragraph that be it further resolved that the scope of allowable profit-making activities at such events approved by the council may include artisans, food, or other vendors who themselves create and sell their own physical products, provided the primary purpose and council approval requirements stated above are met. Okay, it's got to be a benefit to the town, and this encompasses artisans and sole creators of stuff. So that's really the gist of it. The rest of it is how to get what needs to be approved. The last paragraph, the last further resolved, is that the town council must approve any new activity. But if that activity is a recurring activity, the town council does not have to approve the recurring, they just need to be informed that it's happening, so the council has an opportunity to comment on it, and specifically if some profit-making sales is going on, the town council needs to be informed of that, so somebody doesn't step over the line, so. That's the intent.
Mhm.
All right, and tonight, obviously, nobody's has read it, but now you know the intention.
Well, everybody has, I think.
Yeah.
Read
I didn't,
I sent it- I
I
sent
didn't
that.
create a clean version of it, so.
Yeah, but it was
It's intended, no,
the important stuff was there.
Okay,
yeah.
Barbara.
I have a question. So the vendors will pay a fee to come here, right?
Mhm.
So then where does that money go? Just
It
into the
says-
town treasury?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
It's been written that it would go to support rec committee activities, but it would go into the town treasury.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be an approval, so the councils would still, this has to be passed,
Mhm.
some shape or form. And then that activity needs to be approved by the council. And we, the council can put requirements on it,
Mhm.
like this one, but they're bringing that's what they're proposing, all we have to do is approve it,
Okay.
or add our whatever. That we feel.
Yeah, and it's just the thing that I really like about this is that it has to be approved by the council. I mean, every event has to be, so it's kind of like a fail safe where it's gonna be reviewed every single time this comes up and we can decide whether it's in the best interest of the town and it follows the guidelines here.
I have a point of information. As I read the marked up version, that reflects, John, your comments, there seem to be two categories, and forgive me if this is clear to everyone, but there's a category that the rec committee itself can implement, which is more or less similar to what was in the 2015-02 resolution.
Upside down.
Yeah, with the one change, well, organizing and managing. And then deleting the town council approval. And then there's a second category of activities that the town council can approve. That can be, that aren't sort of at the direction of the recreation committee. And can be profit making as long as the primary purpose is to benefit the town as defined. Is that?
Yeah, all I did was move the town council approval, the last whereas further resolved applies to applies to the recreation programs as well. That if it's a new program activity, it must be approved. And if the council, if any involvement of artisans, food or other vendors, the town council must be notified. So you could have one year you could have I don't know, whatever, the Circle Fest would be, nobody's making anything, and the next year they say, oh, we've got this great, somebody wants to sell, portraits of the mayor. For profit.
I'll take two of those. Will they be signed?
Well, I guess my question is, does this contemplate that there are some activities that the recreation committee administers and some that it doesn't administer, but as long as the town council
Yes, it
approves them.
allows for other committees
Mhm.
or
Got it.
groups to have, yes.
Yeah.
They have to
Yeah.
meet the same requirements. Obviously, they don't meet the ones that apply.
Yeah,
I mean, they may have to meet the same ones the rec committee does, but it's not specified that they do in here, but the town and council has to approve it, so we can put anything we want.
well, I'm just wondering,
Supposed
so
to be, make the general requirement. Council needs to see. To bless
mhm.
how an activity is to be.
Well,
Conducted.
it seems to me, and I guess I'm gonna move to amend this, to delete the older carryover section that references the recreation committee. In other words, if we're moving towards a system where anyone can ask the committee, anyone can ask the town council for permission to have one of these profit-making activities as long as it meets the criteria of primary uses to benefit the town, then I'm not sure why we need specifically to have the recreation committee section. I mean, but it's likely that the recreation committee is gonna be one entity that comes to the town to do this.
Mhm.
But there could be others. It seems a little confusing to have this sort of carryover section of the recreation committee where really that's just a vestige of the prior resolution. We really are just kind of getting rid of all of this. Cause it,
Can I just offer up a reason why that's not the case?
sure, yeah, I mean, if I'm misreading it or if others. have a
Well,
different-
yeah, I'm just gonna
interpretation.
suggest that this business with the recreation committee is really it's advance permission to do, for example, instructional activities and
Like yoga.
like yoga, like summer in the parks, like any of these things. It sets a bunch of requirements. And you're absolutely right. We could pull this out and then somebody comes and I want to do summer in the parks. And then we're gonna have to have a document that says, here's exactly what you need to do in order for it to be okay to do summer in the parks. Whereas in here, they have guidance on it. It's that's a reason to have it put specifically in here because the recreation committee already has a whole laundry list of activities that they set up and organize and sponsor. So think about it, Rob. Let's not debate it here. I don't think we can approve it. This sort of thing should, in my opinion, you can't raise and pass this sort of thing unless we have some critical reason. I think the recreation committee can assume from what they've heard here that they're going to be able to have their fare. So they should proceed as if
Right.
if they will. In worst cases, we don't change anything at all, and the council passes a special dispensation saying, okay, this fair can go on as long as this, that, and the other thing.
Well, let me just leave.
That's the worst case.
Sure, I'll stop. Let me just leave this last comment, which is, as I read it, as it's currently set up, there is a separate system for the recreation committee that actually imposes sort of additional requirements
Yes.
unique on the recreation committee that other committees or other just individuals within town don't need to go through. And that seems strange. I'm not sure why we would
I
want.
don't know if I agree with that, though.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
Isn't
that's just my observation of how the document works. I don't think
how
that
the
it,
document, yeah.
I don't think that should be the case. I don't
Yeah.
think we want the recreation committee to have imposed on it sort of additional criteria it needs to satisfy in order to do these things. For instance, like, I don't think that there is when the recreation committee is doing something, there needs to be reasonable public notice of programs and activities given to town residents. And the town treasurer shall receive and disperse all funds. But those two requirements, for instance, aren't imposed on others that aren't the recreation committee. Seems weird that you would have
No,
a separate set of rules for the recreation
why is
committee.
it? It's not separate. It's the only one called out is the recreation committee. That doesn't mean the rest of any other events wouldn't get the same requirements. I mean, here's the.
Well, that's not how it's drafted. I mean, I agree
Here's the reason.
that it shouldn't be that way. I'm just saying, like, that's how it reads right now.
Under the rec committee, recreation part of the budget, we have activities that are authorized with funds. The town is gonna spend money on summer in the park. Look at the list. It's Music Weekend, Labor Day, 4th of July, Bluestover, Circle Fest, Art Night, family program. Oh, well, that's not specific. All these things are activities that we've already budgeted for and approved, obviously approved. But their conduct is both by historically their conduct, but it's in this resolution. The former resolution, the same text as to what things, what the important things about operating these activities were.
Well,
So.
But
It's not, it's just.
that's a little apples and oranges though, because I thought those kinds of things are when the recreation committee wants to pay with town funds, say, a band or a magician or
Mhm.
someone. But what I thought this resolution is about is saying, if we want to have an event and at that event, have a food truck come in
Mhm.
and they can just set up. We're not paying them with town funds, but they're allowed to set up on town land and sell stuff to people.
Mhm.
That's different
If
than,
it's part of an event
Yeah.
that has benefit to the community.
right, I understand. That, all I'm saying is when that happens and is done by the recreation committee, this document as it's currently written requires the recreation committee to do more than what a different committee. I don't think we intend that or want that.
I think you've misinterpreted it entirely. It's
Okay.
specific for, this specifies things the recreation committee should do.
Okay,
If the sustainability committee comes to us with an event, I would expect the council to imply the same requirements, depending on the nature of the event. It's just that we don't have any activities that are ongoing or in mind that the sustainability or anybody else is going. We're trying to.
let's leave it at this. I don't wanna, I'm sorry, I don't mean to derail things.
Well, it's helpful.
How about-
I just don't want to get into
Yeah.
the position of having to tell the recreation committee things we already have set up. We already have a policy for.
Well, I don't, let's all read it and think
But-
with an eye towards at least this one question I'm raising. Is it imposing, as currently written, different standards on the recreation committee than some other committee or group or individuals within town? And if so, is that what we want and intend or not?
So 1502, 1502, right? That was written specifically for the recreation, correct? And so what you've done, which is great, is you've included, you've made it more encompassing for the whole, for the whole group, not just the rec committee. So, I mean, I kind of agree with what Rob's saying. It is what you said this is about, this is not just about the rec committee. This is about, the town itself.
Well, maybe
You're broadening it.
Maybe what you're saying is it needs an amendment to include a statement, the town council may impose such other conditions on an event similar or different from those specified
Why can't we just-
herein for the recreation.
Well, why don't we, or just like what Rob's saying, take the rec committee out of it and make it generic for the growth.
So
That
I
makes
read
sense,
this
yeah.
differently. I read this as saying there are certain things that the recreation committee does now, and that's the unhighlighted part
Mhm.
of that paragraph. And then in the yellow paragraph below, it says all new programs and activities must be approved, blah, blah, blah. And then the town council must be notified by the recreation or other organizer at least 30 days, et cetera. So I see these sections
Mhm.
applying like one to the rec committee because they're traditionally the people who have done this. And then opening it up to other committees that may want to do it as well, but they have to get approval for that the first time that comes around.
It doesn't really restrict other committees.
No.
By having it there. It's
No.
just specific for the rec committee. If
Yeah.
they, we can apply the same things if we want to, but by being there doesn't mean it.
I think it's well written, the way it is. I couldn't find, when John edits things, I try to find fault, but they couldn't. I tried.
Usually easy to do.
I mean, I just think this is pretty straightforward. And it achieves, there's a need that, there's a need, and you said it, we sneak things around, try to get things done. And as Gene said, let's just be honest about it.
So if we vote to implement this at the next meeting, you think that gives the folks enough time to get the fall festival set up here.
Of course, I want it done now. Yeah, it does. And it's also but just as as a goodwill statement, the church. Margie at the church said that if we didn't approve this, that they would be happy to host it at the church again. But we would really like to have it, bring it into.
Oh,
the
good.
town.
Well, then that way.
Yeah, well, no, so we can make the commitment to these 20 vendors. But I really appreciate what you said, John, is that I think that everybody here would support the event and we'll.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great, yeah,
Yeah.
we would love.
I just think this was, Renee, Lisa, and then John. I think the three of them did a fantastic job keeping this really basic, really simple, so that when you read it, you can basically understand what it's about. I really think it's well done. I don't see how we're going to improve it, but you can. Yes.
Question though, right? And what comes to mind is, and it's kind of like what, Rob is saying too. It sounded like originally what you were saying is that the rec committee was the governing body of activities. And then now this is taking that out, and it sounds like you're now divvying it up and we're putting in the rec committee instructions or requirements or whatever, in addition to anybody else that wants to come in to host.
I don't
get something
understand
hosted.
what you're saying.
Well, so, who is the governing body, right?
The governing body?
Yeah.
The council.
Okay, so do we want to roll everything up to the council?
No, but it says in there, all existing programs, once the council approves a program, it runs every year, and it doesn't get reapproved. So this is just whenever we want to create new programs, or new activity, it goes to the council for guidance and approval, I mean, everybody was excited on the committee. It wasn't like, oh, they're taking our authority or anything like that.
Well, I'm not, okay,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of confused, and I guess the other thing is, all along, and I'm sharing the information I'm getting, we were using the church, private property, I'm assuming the parking lot, hard surfaces. If we don't.
No, it was all on the grass.
Grass and
Oh,
everything
yeah.
else, right, but.
It was using the parking lot as well, because that's where the food trucks were. parked.
Well, food truck, yeah, but the event itself was on the side.
But if we, and I guess that's what I'm getting at is we're limited on space here in town for parking, as we know, right?
No, we have the church parking lot is right there.
Yeah, but there's a mutually understood agreement between the town and the church that we can use the lot anytime we want.
Yeah.
When it's not being used.
Exactly, yeah. So it's almost in the same location, it's just across the street, that's all. So I don't think parking isn't gonna be an issue with it.
Okay. Parking with food trucks, tires, if it's not on hard surfaces, and then also parking for people to come in, especially since we're trying to bring people in from outside of town too, right?
Well, if you've been to the fair, a lot of people from out of town, it's very, very popular. A lot of people come from out of town. It's really a fun event. It's really nice.
No, I think, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's not a good idea.
Are you worrying about damaging town property?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
No problem.
And then, parking on neighbors' yards. I know, I was involved in a wedding, a couple of years ago that used to, the hall. And there were residents, very, very adamant and coming out of their houses to tell me, people don't park in front of my house, put these cones out. So,
Residents or a resident?
I was thinking.
I think that is the singular.
Yeah.
But, and that's what I'm getting at is, that's what kind of worries me, because if we. And then again, that's where I'm going with the governing body, like if we have the rec committee, then anybody that has an issue or question or concern or whatever, they could go to the rec committee chair. If we open this up to anybody and everybody, then if somebody has a question, where are they gonna go? Are they gonna come to the council? And then if they come to the council, they're gonna come to the full council, or send out an email to the mayor and council. How is it gonna be controlled? Right? And that's the other question I have. So. Yeah.
But the council will have to approve the event.
Right,
So that would be something that we would be thinking
yeah,
about.
yeah, parking's always an issue. But like Circle Fest, we had over 200 people. And it will grow and you go, oh my God, you can't have 200 people in the circle. Where's everybody gonna park? There was not one instance of anybody having, any problems with that. People, we've been around for, the town forever. We've had all these big events. Even like when we have celebrations of people who have passed on. There's, a lot of people here. They're all parked wherever. And except for that one person, there's not, it's not an issue. This is a community. And we make it work. So,
Okay,
Okay,
well,
yeah, I know.
while you were talking, I threw up the world's simplest potential additional thing under the last one. This further resolve says approved programs and activities are subject to the following. Blah, 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 such other conditions as the town council may require of the activity sponsor.
Kind of
There you
covers
go.
it.
That covers
Yeah.
everything.
Mhm.
And the only ones we've made, the possible ones, some of the possible ones are under the recreation committee's requirements, which are all, some of which have already been listed there. So maybe that helps. It doesn't, we're still calling out the recreation committee in particular because they've literally been charged to do educational and kinds of activities that they do in addition to the social events and those all involve collecting fees and what have you, and therefore this had to be, they had to have some specific allowance to do that.
Just have a question.
Yes.
So I understand, as I was reading this, it was obviously tailor written for the fall festival.
Yes.
I was wondering how in your guys' mind, how this fit the other scenarios like Kathy Carey Fletcher's trying to sell art in the house, in the town hall. I mean, and back when this original was revised from the original thing, it was about people giving private lessons on the tennis courts and in the town hall for various things. And so I'm just curious, how does this address the not making money on town facilities for other types of events, and how do we determine whether it's in the benefit of the town for those kind of events? Or is this really just tailored toward the fall festival? We're not really worried about those other types of things right now.
About my opinion.
Well,
If I had had this, I wouldn't have any problem letting Kathy Fletcher.
Yeah, right.
Put up Jim Fletcher
Right.
stuff for sale, because this is a benefit to the community. The community loved Jim
mhm.
in general. We all knew about his artwork, his paintings were liked by some and not liked by others. His sculptures were of great interest, no matter whether you liked them or not. And it was just part of him. Our signs were, are done by, so I think that one would have qualified as a benefit to the community, and yes. Somebody was gonna benefit from having them sold, but that's fine. We might have charged her a fee. Consequently, we said, okay, we wanna make sure we're not. Supporting a for-profit making activity with any fund, so we'll charge a fee.
So
But,
does
yeah.
send that kind of question to the committee just officially? So if something came up, it would come to the committee to decide if it was in the town.
Sorry? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, say would Kathy's, would that have been?
Oh, but they
Yeah,
probably
just
would have, it
come up
depends
to the
whether
council.
how active the committee is, right now we have a good committee that really. Being comprehensive about things and starting new stuff. We've had rec committees which are barely limping along. And they would never have taken on this question. They said, we don't want to deal with it. So guess who will end up having to deal with it? I will on the council,
Yeah.
because somebody wants to use the hall and we have to make it.
So,
But
so
that was-
that's
that
the
was my
answer to your
question.
question,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if Kathy were doing it today.
Right, it would
She'd come to us and we
yeah.
vote,
Yeah.
Which seems,
Exactly.
yeah.
guided
Great.
by these criteria,
Right.
not exclusively these criteria.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, that makes sense, like I agree, this this is a very sensible thing, we should definitely do this, I just,
I know,
yeah.
I understand.
So John, the chair of the rec committee had a question. Is that, can I bring it up now or
No,
not?
you can make it your question.
Yeah, well, I am,
Of course,
Mike,
actually, she's allowed to contribute
yeah.
if you want information.
Well, let me just read this because it'll be, okay. She would like to know, we would like to know, could the rec committee specific language be moved out of this and into a charter document for the rec committee? It currently doesn't have one. That way it can be more general in the ordinance. So that's basically. Really, no, yeah.
If you're talking about the bylaws for the rec committee.
Yeah, well, she's saying basically, like
That
Rob was
way.
saying, let's make this more generic and not just rec, but I think our discussion is, I mean, I don't want to make this more complicated because
No, I don't.
we're getting, yeah,
For anybody.
yeah, the rec committee is getting, and this conversation is fantastic. This is like a really, it's wonderful to not have emails going back and forth, but just to have everybody.
All right. We do need
Okay.
to move along.
Okay.
I think the answer is to again, I'll send around a clean version.
Right.
You all know what this is about and everybody can wordsmith it and, you know, consider it in, you know, in more quiet.
Right. And I'm getting a lot of text, so the people who are texting me can have their input. It's not, we're not voting right now,
Okay.
so it's
Yeah,
safe,
that's
yeah,
good.
it won't get yelled at.
Yeah, tell them to send it to all of us.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's essentially the council.
Send it all to Rob.
To postpone action until July.
Mhm.
Hearing no objection, that's
Yeah.
what we will do. All right,
Good, thank you, guys.
all right, that takes us to the other regular business, which is the town council reports. First, I only called out a very few items. One was the in Peter's Recreation Committee report, the Art in the Park Day, May 17th.
Mhm.
Which was apparently a success with kids and adults with the fun additional thing that the tree that had fallen in the park was apparently a big hit. It was the best climbing. We don't have to get new play equipment. We have a free climbing. thing. I hope the playground-
Next year.
I hope the playground committee has taken note of this.
Unfortunately, there'll be plenty more of those entertainment things coming in the near future around the Grove.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's good.
So you can read more about that. John reported out of the Woods Committee, the high school volunteers will and paid participants will be watering the 15 trees planted last fall in the woods. That's as needed. If it rains every week, no watering will go on. You know, it won't rain every week. So the new trees need attention. And he also reported that the status of the restoration plans for Maple Spring. Where the old cement walls, Patty showed the picture at the annual town meeting of what it looks like cleaned up. But it needs some structural work. And so that work is going to is being planned for this summer. And lastly, with respect to the website, once again, Barbara just pointed out, we're now a .gov site, which most of you may not know, but the Montgomery County mayors have been having a monthly lunch meeting by Zoom since COVID started. I think it was the idea of a couple of mayors, Judd Ashman of Gaithersburg, whatever, but by no means attended by all the mayors of every month. We have speakers and what have you, but one of the things that came up at the last meeting, the speaker was a fellow from the comptroller's office talking about not the comptroller's office, the attorney general's office, talking about things of concern to municipalities, scams of
Mhm.
residents and how to avoid scams and what to do about scams. In fact, the Attorney General's office has a helpline. They have more than a helpline. They will actually give you advice. And I mean, you can have complaints and all of that. So we went through all of that. And the thing came up about cybersecurity of your websites and what have you. And a few of the mayors there said, oh, hey, it's the reason we became a .gov.
Hmm.
And yeah, a bunch of them only recently went to .gov, just like we're doing. And one of them was because the .gov site is significantly more protected against infiltrations, not totally by any means, but. So, and then Barbara also reported the raft of other things that Christine has been doing. She's in particular been working with the consultant on the website to make it more streamlined, more effective, and aiming towards adding functionality. So, but there's other things, puts up all sorts of pages. That's all I have to say about the council reports. You're all welcome to say anything that feel anybody needs to particularly know. Okay, if not, then we can move on. Christine's not posting the council reports anymore, but I am. We can always get the council reports out of this agenda link, document links. All right, last item is next meeting will be July 14th. That will be a significant meeting. We just talked about taking care of this resolution we just spoke about and bound and determined to handle the design approval and cost, the design and work proposals for the various areas of the stormwater infrastructure management.
Are we gonna get anything from Todd, from the,
Yeah, so I can't,
Attorney, I mean, it's really, talk about when the iron is no longer.
I know,
I don't think it's hot. I think she took.
They're not even gonna be able to find the iron.
Yeah, it's like embarrassing.
Yeah, I'll follow up with Swellen. Yes. Peter's asking about the commercial corner. The mechanism to
Yeah,
accomplish the goals of the town and property owner with the renovation. Okay, anything else? If no other business, then
After 9.
we'll be.
You said 9:15, you're.
wow, look at that.
3 minutes early.
Yeah, we need Barbara with
Yeah,
sheriff in town now.
kudos.
Thank you.
By the implemented, Barbara suggested we have more systematic discussions. I thought about it, you should.
Oh, that was very nice.
I feel it was,
Good job.
like, I thought last month some of the discussions went on longer than they needed to, but I felt like what we had about the recreation committee proposal was very healthy and it's right on target.
It helped.
Okay, everybody, that. Yeah, very good.
Good night, everyone.
Good
night.
Thank you, good night.
We're waiting for ourselves. Yeah.
I have a question.
Um,